The house felt unbearably silent after the funeral. Every corner was heavy with memories of a life that had slipped away. I sat alone at the dining table, staring at a half-finished cup of coffee, feeling more lost than I had ever thought possible. The weight of loneliness wrapped around me like a thick, unrelenting fog. Just when I thought the night would swallow me whole, there was a soft knock at the door. Confused and cautious, I opened it, and found my son's best friend standing there. Jason. His eyes held something I couldn't yet understand. A kind of sadness, yes, but also something deeper. Something that would change everything. Jason looked different under the porch light. No longer the lanky teenager who used to raid our fridge and fall asleep on the living room floor after video game marathons. Now he stood tall, broad-shouldered, his face carrying the seriousness of a man who had seen the world and felt its weight. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said quietly, his voice deeper and steadier than I remembered. I nodded. Words had become strangers to me since the funeral. Grief had stolen not just my husband, but my voice, my center, my laughter. He held out a small container. "I brought you something, just a casserole." It was such a small gesture, but it broke me. Tears filled my eyes. I stepped aside, letting him in. The house seemed to welcome him like it too had been starving for sound and life. Jason placed the dish on the kitchen counter and turned to me, his brow furrowed with concern. "How are you holding up? Surviving?" I said, though even the word sounded foreign. He reached out and touched my hand. It wasn't fleeting. It was steady, grounding. My instinct was to pull away, to retreat, but something inside me resisted. "Do you want me to stay for a bit?" he asked. I looked around at the empty house, the photographs still clinging to the walls. "Yes," I said quietly. "Please." We moved to the living room. I curled up on one side of the couch, he sat on the other. The space between us was filled with silence that wasn't uncomfortable, just full. Alive. We talked. First about safe things, his job, my garden, the neighborhood. And then it shifted. He asked about my husband, about what I missed most. Something opened in me then. Words poured out. The late-night laughter. The quiet mornings. The inside jokes. He listened. No interruptions. No solutions. Just presence. When I finally stopped speaking, he leaned closer and said, "You're allowed to miss him. And still need someone." It hit me like a wave. His face was close now, shadowed. His eyes warm, not with pity, but something quieter. An offering. A possibility. My heart pounded. Jason saw the shift in me. He smiled, slow and unsure, but full of unspoken promises. I didn't move away when his knee brushed mine. I didn't let go when his hand found mine again. Fingers curling. Warm. Real. And when he leaned in, I didn't stop him. The kiss was soft, careful, curious. It could have ended there, but I didn't want it to. The kiss deepened slowly, like neither of us was sure how far we wanted to go. Only that we didn't want to stop. It wasn't hungry. Not yet. It was reverent, gentle, like we were both trying to remember what it meant to be wanted. When we finally pulled apart, I saw it in his face. Not regret, but restraint. He was giving me space, time, a choice. But I already knew what I wanted. "Come upstairs," I whispered. We moved like shadows through the house. No words, just breath and presence and silent permission. Every step up the stairs felt louder than it should have, like the old wood itself was warning us, this will change things. Forever. And it did. In my bedroom, he touched me with such quiet care that my eyes burned. He didn't rush, didn't press, just looked. "You're beautiful," he said softly, like he meant it, like he didn't see the grief or the age or the weight of the months behind me. Just me. That night wasn't about lust. It was about permission, to feel, to ache, to need.
to be more than the woman left behind. When it was over, when we lay tangled in the soft glow of the bedside lamp, skin warm and breath slow, he wrapped an arm around me like it was the most natural thing in the world. And I let him. I didn't ask what it meant. I didn't need to. But the truth is, I didn't fall asleep easily. My body was calm, yes, but my mind was restless. Would this still feel real in the morning? I woke up before the sun. The room was quiet, soft shadows stretching across the ceiling. For a few seconds, I forgot everything that had happened. Then I shifted and felt his arm draped across my waist. Jason was still there, still breathing steady beside me. That should have brought peace. And in a way, it did. But alongside it came a familiar tremor. Fear. Because reality doesn't wait. And I knew the questions would come. What happens now? What does this mean? What will people think? Jason stirred, eyes still heavy with sleep. "Penny for your thoughts?" he mumbled. I smiled weakly. "Just wondering how much longer this can be ours. Before the world sees it." He blinked slowly, then propped himself up on one elbow. "You're doing that thing again," he said gently. "What thing?" "Thinking yourself out of something good." His words hit me hard, because that's exactly what I was doing. I sat up, pulling the blanket closer. "You're young. I'm not naive. I know what this looks like." Jason reached for my hand. "I don't care what it looks like. I care what it feels like. And last night, that was real." I didn't answer. Not because I didn't believe him, but because I wanted to. More than anything, the days that followed were filled with moments that felt both fragile and bold. Jason started coming by more often, sometimes with groceries, sometimes with coffee, sometimes with nothing at all. Just himself. Every time he knocked on the door, my heart did that strange skip, that flutter between anticipation and fear. We didn't talk about what we were, we didn't label it, but it lived in every glance, every hand on my back, every shared silence that felt whole. But secrets don't stay quiet forever. The doorbell rang one afternoon, sharp, impatient. When I opened it, my son stood there, Evan. His face didn't register joy or surprise, just suspicion. He looked past me into the house, his jaw tightening when he spotted Jason standing in the kitchen. He didn't say much that night, stayed cold, withdrawn. And when he left, he didn't hug me. That was the first time in years he didn't. He called 2 days later, not to yell, not to accuse, just one question. Why him? I stood in the kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, staring out the window at nothing in particular. "I don't know," I said honestly. Maybe because when everything fell apart, he was the one who stayed. The silence on the other end stretched. "I trusted him," Evan finally said. "He was like a brother." "I know." "Are you in love with him?" I could have deflected, lied, said I wasn't sure, but I was done hiding. "Yes." A long pause. "I'm trying to be okay with it, Mom, but it's going to take time." And that was more grace than I ever expected. The next time Evan came by, he shook Jason's hand. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't angry either. Progress, I thought. They sat across from each other that evening at my kitchen table. I watched them dance around small talk like two men trying to figure out who they were now. To me, and to each other. I didn't push it. I let them take their time. Jason stayed the night again. But for the first time, he didn't leave before Evan woke up. And Evan didn't storm out. He simply nodded and said, "I'll call you later, Mom." I closed the door behind him and stood there for a long moment. Then I felt Jason's hand on my back. "You okay?" he asked. I turned to him. I think so, because something had shifted. Something big. Not everything was healed, but the healing had begun. Time moved forward as it always does. Seasons changed. The garden bloomed again. And so did I. Jason never asked for more than I could give. But one evening, as we washed dishes together after dinner, he dried his hands, turned to me, and said, "I don't know where this leads, but I want to walk it with you." I felt tears sting my eyes, not from sadness, but from how safe it felt to be chosen. We didn't rush. We didn't make announcements. But slowly, we built something real. Even my son, in time, began to smile again when he saw us together. And one quiet morning, as Jason sat on the porch sipping coffee and I curled up beside him, he kissed the top of my head and whispered, "You saved me too, you know." I looked up at him. "Not just me," I said. "You brought me back to life." And in that moment, I realized, love doesn't always come wrapped in tradition. Sometimes it arrives when everything else has fallen apart and stays.